beacons. Have you ever seen a garden? Do you know that parenting and gardening share a lot in common? They both require care, attention, and nurturing to raise nurturing and thriving entities. While gardening requires care, attention, and patience, parenting requires that you give your children or what the love, the support, and guidance they need to grow up to be healthy and thriving individuals. In this video today, we'll be looking at the connection between gardening and parenting and sharing tips on how you can make your parenting, or in this case, your gardening experience, a lot better. What are the features of gardening? Number one is physical activity. You've picked your choice land or your plot. You've decided that this is a good place for you to raise your garden or your nursery in. What's next? You need to get off the debris from the land. You need to clean it up. You need to make sure that it is suitable for the kinds of crops or seeds you want to put, or flowers or vegetables you want to put on the garden. And then next is creativity. This comes to play largely when you are considering sometimes for somebody like me, I would want to consider the colors. So when the fruits are coming out, do I want to plant a green one close to a red one or a yellow one to make my space really radiant and bright? It all comes to play in creativity though. Your design skills will come to play, your organizational skills will come to play, your eye for aesthetics generally will come to play a great deal when it comes to your creativity. Number three is patience. Gardening requires a whole lot of patience. Sometimes you see a very beautiful garden and then maybe your neighbors with somebody who doesn't have the kind of skills you have, the farming or gardening skills you have, and then you're feeling very mad and sad or frustrated and angry that their garden is a lot more beautiful than your own, and not knowing that it took them time, energy, resources, and a lot of patience to get their barren or scorched land to that beautiful, wonderful, alluring garden you're seeing. So patience plays a big role in your gardening. Now, what are the principles of gardening and how can we relate them with parenting? Number one is creating the right environment, or a nurturing environment. It's not just enough to pick a plot of land, for instance, like we've established earlier. You must go through the physical activities of making it good enough for your plants, okay, or your flowers or your herbs. You must make sure that the land is not flooded by erosion. You must consider a lot before you go ahead with planting or continue with your planting journey. Now, let's relate this to parenting, shall we? Creating the right environment. There's been this age-long nature-nurture debate. The children thrive because of their nature, like the genes or whatever characteristics, traits they're born with, or are they largely influenced by the environment in which they grow? You cannot take away from either of them, in my opinion, because both play a hand-in-hand role in making sure that your child is a wholesome, fully raised, and well-groomed child. While the traits may make him better in understanding or academically, the environment may hinder learning if it is not conducive, if it's not comfortable, and if it does not allow him thrive in his academic prowess, so to speak. Number two is setting boundaries. If you do not put up barriers in your garden, raccoons may come in, pests and rodents may come in, and they'll make a mess of everything you have done. This also applies with parenting, because if there are no rules in place, if you do not have strict disciplinary measures, remember, with us, because discipline does not translate to punishment or corporal punishment or physically hitting your child or yelling or spanking or losing control. Discipline in this case will be teaching. So discipline will be to teach, to take away bad behavior and replace with worthwhile or better alternatives. Now, how are you setting boundaries? Are you allowing your children to just mingle with just anybody? Do you have values that guide them in maybe in selecting friends or their associations? Do you have principles that you live by as a family? These boundaries will go a long way in fostering the proper environment for your children, as with your garden, protecting them from preys or predators, as the case may be. Number three will be nourishing environment, or not, sorry. Number three will be nourishing growth. A garden requires nourishment. Is it with manure? Is it with water? Is it in the amount of sunlight? Talk about photosynthesis, right? The amount of sunlight that gets in your garden will determine how much your plants will grow. If not, they'll be bending towards the light, right? Have you ever tried the experiment? I know my kids came home one time with, they were asked to do a science project, a planting project, wherein they were required to plant a seed of bean, a bean seed in a dark corner in the house, and then plant one and put it in a lighted place. The one that was hidden away in the closet did not even grow at all. Meanwhile, in a few days, the one that was outside close to a light source had sprouted, and then we were seeing a few leaves. Now the lesson was pretty clear that the seed did not need only soil to grow; it also required sunlight too, and that's where photosynthesis comes to play. So if you are not providing your children or your garden, if we're comparing, you're not providing your children the right nourishment to grow, then of course they won't grow well, even if they grow at all. So it's not just enough to provide primary basic care for them. Are you paying attention to their emotional, the mental, the physical well-being? Are you incorporating exercise to their everyday life? Are you making sure that they don't eat just what they feel like eating? My daughter once said that junk is yummy does not mean that it's good for you. Are you feeding them the right meals? Do you have a thing for balanced diet, or anything just goes? Nourishing growth is very important to your children. And remember, it doesn't only boil around their eating habits, it also boils down to their mental, physical, and emotional health too. Number four is pruning and weeding. A time came in my life where I was faced with a tough choice of, or a tough question of, how do my children pick the kinds of friends they should associate with? Now, I would not I would not go around or about with them saying this is a good candidate for your friendship or that is a good candidate for your friendship. It would be counterproductive. I wear myself out, because come to think of it, how many hours are they away from me, especially when the school is in session? What I had to do was create a value system, like we have well laid out values. I actually had to make it into canvas and put in a conspicuous place. I didn't want to assume that they knew. I needed them to see every day, to remind themselves of who they are and what they stand for. Now, the essence of this is to maybe give them a guiding checklist, so that they will be able to pick for themselves using the values. If this person is not kind, if this person is not caring, if this person is not teachable, if he's not God-fearing, if he's not loving, if he's not patient, if he's not resilient, then do you think you should still consider friendship with that person? Now, the trust will now be theirs, knowing that they know what to look out for. It is not just enough to have that physical document, for instance. You must walk the talk, because they learn by imitation, by observation and then imitation. If you're not walking the talk, if it's just a mere document that's up there on display, they would lose it, because you are the mirror. Remember, you are the guiding light, the beacon, beacon that is guiding them on their journey through childhood. Number five will be fostering learning and development. Just as gardens, for instance, require ongoing care. You won't just plant and say, okay, I'm done with the planting, let me go and rest. You need to water, you need to prune, you need to trim, you need to make sure that there are no pests. And then when you find that there's any infection or disease or pests growing, you quickly treat it, right? That's the same thing with the children. They require you to be present, to be attentive, and to always listen. Don't say that you are very busy. Don't say that your job is not availing you the opportunity to, all the time, to be there for them. The moment you turn your back, imagine a gardener traveling, for instance, with nobody, no competent enough hands to look after their garden for when they are away. What happens? You come back and you meet that your garden has been taken over by maybe weeds, for instance, or that animals or rodents have finished boring holes, or worms, for instance, even have burn holes on your leaves. So what happens? You have to start afresh, tear it down and build afresh. But in the case of the children, is it really possible to tear down everything and build afresh? I don't think so. So it's best from the get-go that you make out plans to be present, or at least even if you're going to be away, let it be for a short while, and make sure that they are in under the care of very competent people. Remember, I'm not saying just under the care of just anyone. I mean very competent hands who can take care of your garden as effectively, as efficiently, as cautiously and carefully as you would. Number 6 will be to cultivate positive character traits. Your plants require patience. Sometimes you need to pick out the yellow leaves. Sometimes you need to pick out the ones that are hollow. Sometimes you just need to be there. And sometimes you need to tie, maybe they're not picking up from the ground well, especially some that are crawling. You need to tie a twine so that you guard them, all right? I remember one of my mentors talked about the yam and how you'd need to maybe tie a twine to guide the yam sprout to go around the pool, or the stick when it has started bringing out the sprouts and crawling about the place. Now, if you're not there to guide, if you're not there to mold, if you're not there to patiently teach, if you're not there to keep nurturing, you find out that there'll be stunted growth in the sense that maybe they are stuck with their self-esteem. They needed a little bit of push, a little bit of pruning here and there. They didn't get it from you because you were not present. They'll be stunted in physically too, because they'll be, maybe for instance it's in junk, because nobody wants to be in a fight with a child or a fuzzy kid over the kinds of meals to eat or when to eat it. So everybody just wants what's convenient, you and the caregiver and the child in question. So in this case, if you're not available to stand on your feet, like put your feet on the ground and say, no, this is not good for you, this would be better, a lot of things will go wrong. Stunted growth will happen physically too, because you find out that they'll be getting obese over time. They will not be exerting themselves, their energies physically, and then they will not be getting in shape. So it is important that you're present and then you are very available. Make plans, okay? We somehow get to create time for the things that are very important to us. Like I always say, if there was an emergency at work, right now, let's say your child was very, very sick and it was hospitalized and the school calls you up, would you be there? Would you leave everything you were doing, like rush to the hospital and make sure that the child is not dying? Well, treat every day as an emergency, because who knows? Who knows, right? Who knows? So you need to always be present. You need to put in the work, because gardening requires a lot of patience, like we established earlier, and it requires that you give it all your attention. Well, all your attention. We'll talk about balance some other time and how to get that working for you. All right. So you need to be present, like we've established already. You need to put in your time, you need to put in your resources, you need to grow yourself, because you cannot give what you do not have. You cannot pour out from an empty cup. You cannot teach your children the skills you do not possess, because they learn by observation and imitation. You need to learn organizational skills. You need to up your game on creativity. You need to be the person that you want your kids. They are confident enough to allow your kids model after. A blurry mirror will not be a good one to look at your face with. A map that is torn will not be a good guide for somebody who's traveling. All right. To maybe drive this point home, you can start a small garden outside your home. You don't have to really have a plot of land to do that, Start a garden. You can maybe start with three plants and then grow from there. You can do a very small box, make a small box, put sand, and then do something with it to show your children, to remind yourself how your parenting journey, how their growing up stage It's very much like gardening, so that every day you go there to maybe water it, to maybe check up on your plants, you would remember to check up on your children too. On this video today, we've been able to establish that parenting and gardening share a lot in common. We said some features of gardening includes physical activity, creativity, and then patience in taking care of your garden so that to be the best on the block and to give you the results that you want. We talked about the principles of gardening and how they relate with parenting. We talked about creating the right environment, a supportive environment. We talked about nourishing growth. We talked about pruning and weeding. We talked about the principles of gardening, including creating a supportive environment, nourishing growth, pruning and weeding. We also mentioned fostering learning and development. We said cultivating positive character traits. And finally, we said you should maybe create a garden or build up one so that you'd remember constantly to do your task as a gardener in your journey as a parent. Now, in applying these principles, you need a lot of self-care. I don't believe that you can give what you do not have. I don't believe that you can garden or plant efficiently if you're not properly rested. Even God had to take out a day out of 7 to rest. Now, you may not want to be like that. A lot of things may need your attention, but even if it's an hour or longer every day, just make our time to rest, because a gardener who is sick or indisposed will not be in the best position to nurture or take care of a nursery. So I'll leave you with this quote by Audrey Hepburn, which says, "To plant a garden is to believe in tomorrow." Beacons, do you believe in tomorrow? Take care of your garden. If you found value in this video, please share with your loved ones. Click on the notification button so that you'll not miss new episodes every Friday. And please leave a comment and a like. We hope to see you on the next video. Thank you so much for watching till the end.